If you are a woman experiencing brain fog, fear not. You're still doing way better than a man. Welcome back to Man Science, where we talk about the shoddy, sloppy science done by dudes and how it's still impacting us today. Let's talk about menopause. In the book, The Menopause Brain, the author talks about how we as women, on average, spend 40% of our lives in menopause. And there are amazing transformations that happen in our brains as women during this time. It impacts our brain just as much as it does our reproduction. And in the writing of this book, do you know how many studies there were about women's brains in the menopause process? Zero. Zero studies in all of time in an experience that women spend 40% of their lives in. Also, let me know if you want like a whole series on this. So when it comes to women's brains, man science has deemed them as lesser. Because for a long time, man science thought that size mattered. Because of course they thought that. Women have smaller brains because on average they have smaller heads. And that idea just stuck, even though it is completely ridiculous. In fact, when you look at the variance of smaller heads equals smaller brains and don't try to separate into men and women, that's just like a thing. Yeah, like if you have a smaller head, you have a smaller brain, but it doesn't make you less intelligent. But like she says in her book, however astoundingly flawed the doctrine of female inferiority may be, it is nothing short of the backbone of modern science. Viewing women as inferior and excluding them from science has turned into something that's labeled bikini science. Essentially, anything that is under a bikini is research on women's bodies. And anything not under a bikini, they just do studies on only men. And they're like, oh, well, women can pay for these medications as well, even though they've never been tested on women's bodies. And this is a huge problem for things like menopause because a bikini covers down there, but it doesn't cover your brain. And it's such a brain and down there event. And here's what I think is fascinating and hilarious. With man science, they find all these made up reasons to view women as inferior. But when often women do actual science, the studies and the data points to, quite honestly, female superiority. So because our brain changes so much during menopause, we can experience things like brain fog, which can be super distressing, especially when you felt so capable and now you're having a different experience with yourself and your brain. However, there is a cognitive study that measures how well you're doing with your brain. And it's true, when women are moving through perimenopause and they're experiencing brain fog, yes, they go down on points on the cognitive test. Sometimes so far that they are approaching the range of men's cognition. Yes, a woman with brain fog has still higher cognitive functioning than a dude does any time in his life. Our link will get you to all the books that we reference in our series, our upcoming events, and other fun things.